Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Brito. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I work as a therapist in mental health. Today I want to talk about the topic of mental health and physical health. Why do I constantly say that mental health is physical health? Well, because every time someone is going through something mentally, people tell them it's all in your head. What does that mean? Why are we constantly told it's all in our head? Obviously because we have a brain and our brain is in our head, right? So when I first wanted to become a therapist, even before I was a therapist, I was definitely one of those people that was like, okay, you're telling me someone's depressed, someone has anxiety, bipolar, like what does that mean, right? Like I want a tangible thing, like where is it, how does it look, how does it work? I can't just believe it's this abstract concept that has nothing to do with something real or tangible, right? So I started going to school, and the more and more that I do research and that I work with different clients and the more I learn in my own lived experience, it's like mental health is physical health. You cannot separate your brain from your body. They're one and the same, right? So a lot of times it's very interesting how in the Latinx community, there's such an awareness of this without actually having an awareness of this, right? You're watching a novela and they tell you in the novela, oh, don't stress her out. She's gonna get sick and she's gonna pass out and da-da-da. And a lot of times we were like, this is so exaggerating. Turns out they're kind of right, okay? Whenever we're under a lot of stress, our body will release a chemical called cortisol. Where is it? In your brain, right? Because mental health is physical health. So when we're under a lot of stress, our body's gonna release a chemical called cortisol. That chemical goes everywhere. And naturally, animals do produce cortisol, and it's not a bad thing. However, in high doses and without what we call the homeostasis path, where we kind of resolve that stress, we relax, we chill, and kind of burn it off, what I tell my clients, our body goes back to its normal state. In some stressful situations, however, that doesn't happen. And the more research looked at these chemicals, the more it started noticing that even as young as infants, as young as, being in the womb as a fetus, we realized that the more that we get of these chemicals throughout our life, the more likely it is that we're gonna have a lot of physical issues, a lot of health issues when we grow up. So our mental health is linked to diabetes, high blood pressure, heart failure, so many things. Lately, I see so much fibromyalgia, shingles. Why? Because our brain is connected to our body. We cannot separate them. The more we try, it's just illogical, right? I always told myself like, okay, my dream is to just look in a brain, see how these things function. And there's images, there's videos. We can now actually look at the brain and see that, you know what, if I'm really depressed, I have really low levels of serotonin. My chemicals are just imbalanced. And then we look at our bodies. Okay, so what happens? Well, if I have no motivation, I'm not getting off the couch. If I'm not getting off the couch, I'm gonna gain weight. If I start gaining weight, then I'm obviously gonna have some health issues. I'm gonna have diabetes, blood pressure, heart failure, whatever it may be. And the more that they started researching these chemicals and seeing how people with depression or people with anxiety would develop a lot of medical issues, they started realizing, okay, we have to address the real issue. Luckily, we have more of like this belief in what we call integrated health. And that's really my focus. My focus has always been medical social worker, which means, you know what, you have a medical issue, we have to address the mental health because they're gonna mess with each other. Whether we like it or not, one's gonna fuck with the other. So for me, I started working in different hospitals, clinics, and noticing so many correlations between health issues or physical symptoms and mental health. So I would have clients who constantly had this pain in their neck and they felt like when they tried to eat, they couldn't swallow right. They had like a pain in the pit of their stomach. They had gallbladder stones. They had all these issues, right? And then the more tests that the doctors did, the more they realized it wasn't physical. And the more I worked with them, worked on their anxiety, worked on their traumas, the more they started healing, right? I had clients who they're like, I I need vitamins. Like something's wrong with me. I can't get out of bed. I'm so tired. Like I get through my day, I go to work, I do what I have to, but I'm so freaking tired. So then it's like, okay, well, something else is going on. So the doctors would send them to me, and sure enough, it was depression, right? So we start working on elevating the serotonin levels, whether it's, okay, you can't eat really heavy foods because your body doesn't have the energy to break down so much food. So it's obviously going to bring you a dip and your mood is going to go lower. You can't starve yourself because if you're not eating, food is fuel. So if you're already in a negative, in a deficit, if you have such a low mood, low energy, and then you don't have food in your system, then you're obviously not going to have that energy spike, right? And I started noticing too with a lot of my clients, and it sucks because a lot of medical providers will say, well, this person's bipolar. Like maybe they're not as sick as they say they are. Maybe they don't have as many health issues and they're just constantly utilizing the hospital. And it's like, no, mental health is physical health. So a lot of times the amount of anxiety they had or the really high ups and lows in their chemicals, I started seeing a lot of issues body-wise, right? A lot of acid reflux, a lot of stomach issues, a lot of headaches, a lot of dizziness, right? And so it's like, okay, well then let's address some of these issues that are related to their bipolar disorder, because the more we can manage that, the more we'll be able to manage the physical, right? And then when we look at my clients with trauma, it's like, oh, well, this person is homeless, this person's on drugs, this person's this and that, and that's why they have all these physical issues. And we start really looking at the client, and it's like, of course they're on drugs. Like, their life has been so hard. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they need a coping strategy as strong as drugs? And the thing is that the more we started looking at, okay, what is this trauma doing to their body, right? It inflates a lot of the cells. It really doesn't give them that motivation or that push or that drive to do things. And a lot of times their bodies would just do all these things to try to show us like, hey, there's trauma in me, right? Some of my clients have numbness throughout their body. Some of them start feeling like they're gonna pass out at random times. They have constant diarrhea, throwing up, headaches. And it's like, how is this person supposed to keep a job? How is this person supposed to be able to raise a family? Or not that they can't, because a lot of them can, but when we look at our homeless population and we ask ourselves, like, why are they like this? Well, a lot of it is trauma, right? So I always say we have to address the root, which is the trauma, so that we can regulate some of these chemicals, because as one therapist found, our body keeps the score, which means everything we go throughout our lives is going to stay registered on our body, right? So anyone who's experienced trauma, their body's amazing. It's ready for any future trauma. So it's easily startled. You're going to jump quickly. You're not going to be able to form social relationships, because why would you, right? People screwed you over once. Your body's like, nah, I remember that shit. I'm not going through it again. So I'm not going to build friendships. I'm not going to be around people that are going to be good to me, because I'm so used to being around people that aren't good to me. And unfortunately, our bodies are receptive to all of that. So they're going to seek out relationships at times that are just not healthy. And it's because it's what it knows, right? Our body continuously keeps that score, and it knows. So at the end of the day, what does this all mean? All of this means that in order to address some of these physical symptoms, we have to address the mental ones, because we are not disconnected. Our body and our brain are one and the same. So if our minds are going through a tough time, our bodies are going to show it. There's a lot of people that don't have the usual symptoms of mental health, right? They're not constantly crying. They're not quitting jobs. They're actually really high driven people who are achieving a lot of great things, but then they don't understand why they constantly have headaches. They constantly have stomach issues. They're constantly feeling like, they have the flu or something's going on with them. So even them, we have to start learning to listen to our bodies. And when our bodies are screaming, we have to figure out what's going on. So we have to start with the mind. And that's where a therapist comes in. A therapist is the person that can sit down with you and go through every single point of what the problem is, whether it's physical or mental. So that's why there is no shame in seeking out help. And real help is going to involve physical and mental. That's why a lot of us will do mental mindfulness, food, exercise, and therapy. Because at the end of the day, everything is aligned and everything works together, because physical health is mental health. So again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment. If you guys have any questions or anything that you would like to know in the future, please comment below and stay tuned for the next video. I'll be doing this one in Spanish too. So if you have anyone that only speaks Spanish, please share it.